crafters, and welcome back to the Crafty Meraki YouTube channel. My name is Deepa from Designs by Dee, and today I'm going to be sharing this beautiful floral shadow box card with you. And I decided to choose colors that were more in keeping with autumns as we get into September. So here's a look at all of the products that we're going to be using today to create this gorgeous shadow box card. So the bases of this are the Fancy Frames dies, and these are them. So there's two dies there, a longer one and a shorter one, and then they've also got these like little corners that are great to use. I'll go over that in a minute, but I've also got the June and Natalia dies, Paradise. I've got the Lily Rose and the Wreath Builder here. And I'm going to put all of these together to make a full bouquet. So I've also got the bouquet builder there as well. So I'll just be taking bits and pieces from all of these to create a big floral bunch. Now we're starting off with the Fancy Frames dies, and these are cool because you have two sizes. So we have the longer one where you can make, I think that one is 6 by or 8 by 8. You could make, or 6 by 6, or you could get a 6 by 8. So what I did is I cut out two of the large ones and two of the small ones so I can get a 6 by 8 frame. And then I also cut out in that gray cardstock basically the background, which again is 6 by 8, just a little smidge smaller than that. And then you've also got those beautiful corners that you can use on the frame as well to kind of dress it up a little. So let's go ahead and start off by making our frame. So this whole set's pretty self-explanatory. I don't have the actual packaging for this product, but if you do, it's going to show you how to put this together. It's very simple and very self-intuitive here, but if you basically just fold along all of those embossed lines, you're going to end up forming a square kind of tube. And then all you have to do is attach the overlapping side. And it's the same for all of these pieces. So as I said before, just to reiterate, the larger section is 8 inches in length. The smaller one is 6 inches. So you could cut out 4 of the 8-inch ones to create an 8 by 8 inch shadow box or fancy frame. Or you could cut out 4 of the smaller ones to create a 6 by 6 inch shadow box, or as I'm doing, you cut out 2 of the 8-inch and 2 of the 6-inch to create a 6 by 8-inch frame. Now I'm grabbing some really strong double-sided adhesive here because I don't want to have to do this twice or have my frame fall apart. So I'm just adding a strip there on that one inside edge, and then I basically fold this whole thing in half and then fold over the flap. I find that to be the easiest way to get everything to kind of line up properly. As long as you fold it along those embossed lines as straightly as possible and followed those lines, everything should come together pretty simply. And so I'll just go ahead and detach this last release paper here and attach the side. And now I've got all 4 sides of my frame. Now the easiest way to put this together, I find, and I've tried this multiple ways to find the best way, is to basically have your base. I've cut out that background cardstock at 6 by 8 inches, tiny bit smaller, just so that I don't get anything hanging off the edge. And now it's a matter of putting this together. And you'll notice that I've kind of gone around to see how each piece is going to fit into each other. And I recommend doing this to make sure you got everything facing the right way. You'll see here I'm turning things around. And the reason why I'm turning this around the opposite way is because you know the flap where we attached those tubes together, they kind of overlap and there's a little bit of a seam. I'd rather not have that showing on the front of the frame, so I've turned those parts over to the back. And then all I really have to do is add a piece of adhesive down at the bottom edge there, only on one side, and I fold it flat so that I can easily line up the edge and then fold it back open again. Now for the rest of the pieces, I find it easy to fold it flat to attach that double-sided adhesive. Then you kind of have to give yourself a bit of wiggle room here because you're going to have to insert this into the angled edge there. So what I'm using is some adhesive that dries or gets a little tackier faster. I normally use the Barely Arts glue. And the thing with the Barely Arts glue is it doesn't get tacky really quickly. Like you have to wait a while for that. I prefer to use the other glue here, the Tombow Mono glue, because it tends to get tacky really quickly. So if you have glue that's a bit more tacky, use that one or the Tombow Mono. And then all I do here is attach it to I put the glue on like that bit of the corner that's going to overlap there on the front. And then I kind of line everything up with that base piece, the gray piece, and make sure it's all kind of flush and even along the edges. Now, if you're not too confident and here's the other thing, you can see here, I kind of have to make sure I don't have it fully attached so that I can slip in that last side of the frame. So do keep that in mind as well. Now, as I mentioned, if you are not confident in your technique, like this is your first time doing it, maybe it's best not to go with the double-sided adhesive to start. Why don't you try using the same glue that has that tackiness in there, the Tombow Mono, and use the liquid glue instead. So, and this is going to give you a chance to move and wiggle things around and make sure they're straight, but it is also going to mean that you're going to have to sit there and hold it for a little while until the glue like solidifies a little bit, and that way you're able to place the next side of the frame on without moving too much around. So that's what I would do if it's your first time doing it. But since I've done this already, I would definitely go ahead and use, I just find that the double-sided adhesive is a little cleaner. It's just a preference, really. It's up to you. So now I'm just going ahead and attaching that last one. So as you saw, I did have to pick up a little bit of the first tube that I attached so that I slip this one in. And that Tombow Mono glue is perfect for getting these to stick down. I got a nice square frame here, as in like 90-degree angles, which was really nice because I think the first time I put this together I had a bit of an issue with that because I tried to put the frame together without the background. So that's the key, get that background and attach everything to the background first. And yeah, there's my frame. So you can see it turned out nicely. You can see the seams there on the edges. So that's why those little corners come in handy, but we'll attach those later. Now moving on, this card it takes a bit of effort because I'm using so many different floral dies. So I've gone ahead and I cut out those Natalia Meraki Flora out of some yellow cardstock. I cut out the rose with some lighter yellow cardstock. I cut out all of those leafy bits from some brown and some green cardstocks that were from the Bouquet Builder, which is one of the newer sets. Like I said, the rose was cut, the lily and the rose I cut out of like a light yellow. And the wreath builder, yeah, I just used some of those foliage pieces in brown to add some of that crispness to the floral bouquet that comes with autumn. Now I've also got the June Paradise for those mahogany colored flowers, and then as I said, the lily I cut out of peach, not like a light yellow. So I chose to use lighter tones for the most part, and what I'm going to do is do a little bit of ink blending on them. So I normally cut everything out of white and then do a lot of ink blending. I'm just going to do a little bit of ink blending because I chose the colors this time. Now, again, these are the Natalia dies, so it cuts out a nice sunflower. I'm going to actually use some Marigold Pink Fresh ink, which is like a deeper yellow tone to kind of darken the edges and a little bit of the center of these sunflowers. Now, I've cut out, there's three sunflower dies in that set. I took two of them and I cut them out twice. And I think the dies are basically meant to be used on their own, like just you cut out one piece and you're good to go, but I cut out two because I wanted to create a little bit of depth and layer them up a bit. Now I've also got the centers that I cut out of the yellow as well, and I figured I'm not going to go and grab a separate brown cardstock and do this. I'll just add some brown ink on it. So I'm using some Gathered Twigs and espresso ink from Pink Fresh again, and I'm just going to use that to darken those centers to create like that seed portion of the center of the sunflower. And then I'm also going to add a little bit of the brown along the center of the petals as well. Again, it just gives it that nice rustic look. And then I use the espresso on the very center because I want it to be the darkest. So once I'm done inking these up, I'm actually going to go ahead and assemble these. I normally do all of my inking in one go and then I'll assemble separately. I thought I'd just assemble it together because here I've got it all basically attached to my sticky mat there, and I thought I might as well just work at it this way. So I have a foam mat here. This one is for shaping flowers. So I'm using this along with my stylus tool just to kind of shape those petals a little bit. It gives it a little bit of a more realistic look, a more lively look. And this was the type of effect that I wanted to get here. So I did add a little bit of tape to the first set of petals, and I stuck it upwards so that I can stick that center in there. I attached that front of the sunflower after shaping it, and then I'm just attaching the centers here and adding a little bit of shape to those as well. I think I'm going to use a foam adhesive, just a small square for the center of that sunflower, just for a little bit of interest and to also give it a more of a 3D look. So I'll go ahead and add that there. You don't have to do this. I really wanted the flowers to have more of a realistic or a 3D look. Since it is a shadow box card, I didn't want everything to be completely flat, right? So there's the sunflower. I'll do the same thing for the second sunflower, but I figured I don't have to show you that here. You saw how I assembled one. I did the second one in the exact same way. Now I'm moving on to the lily. Now I have like the larger portion of the lily, so the larger flower, and then I've also got the smaller flower, and I cut out the petals or the pieces for both of those. And now I'm just using some mango sorbet pink fresh ink in order to add some depth to these petals. And all I'm really doing is I'm just adding like a haze of ink on the outer edges of the die cuts. I don't want to add like, it's a different kind of ink blending. Like I'm not really adding, since the cardstock I used was colored anyways, I don't want to completely cover it. I just want to deepen the edges and give it the look of some of those flowers where the edges have like a darker color compared to the center of the petals. So now that I've gone ahead and I've basically added my ink to everything, I'll go ahead and assemble these flowers as well. Now keep in mind that anther there for the center of the flower, I used the espresso to add ink to that one because it should probably have more of like a brown color, right? Now for this one, I'm still shaping it a little bit with my stylus tool. Again, I wanted it to have more of a 3D look. I'm not doing too much shaping. It's mainly I'm curling the edges, and then I kind of run the stylus along the center so that the petals will kind of pop out a little. So I didn't actually style that background piece. Sorry, not style. I didn't shape the background like the first layer, but then I'm shaping all of the other layers because they're basically going to cover that back layer anyways. And then where I felt like I needed to, you can see that there's those embossed lines on the petals. I kind of ran the stylus on the back where those lines would be as well to kind of help them stand out a little bit. And I'm basically assembling this in the exact same way that it shows you on the packaging. If you turn the paper portion of the packaging and you open it, it's like an envelope, and it basically shows you a layering guide in there. And it just makes putting this together a lot easier, even though I'd say it's pretty easy to do anyways without that layering guide, because it's pretty, again, self-explanatory. It has that little hole in the center, that little triangular hole that can help you kind of line everything up. Now for this flower, it's this exact same thing. However, this one only has 3 pieces to it, and I did shape those petals as well. Now I'm moving on to the rose, and for the rose I'm going to be using some mulberry blush. I used a bit of mulberry blush to like deepen the edges again, in the same manner that I did the lily. Again, I want to go with that look where the edges of the petals are deeper in color than the rest of the flower. So I'm not doing anything too crazy here. Again, just ink blending it and adding it to the edges. There are portions of this flower that are more of a detail layer versus being a whole petal. And for those portions, like if you look for like right below that first die cut on the right side, there's a few of those pieces there. I just basically colored those in completely with mulberry because they're going to be that like a detail portion of the rose. So you see me do that. And then now I'm putting it together again, exact same thing. It follows the layering guide that comes in the packaging, and it's up to you. I mean, I actually just added glue in the center portions because, as I said, I wanted the flower to come to life a little more. I wanted the petals to kind of move forward and to be able to shape them a little better. But you could just stick the whole thing down flat if you wanted to. Now, another option with this shadow box that I didn't do in this video is you could close up the shadow box. So if you wanted, you could take a piece of acetate and basically create some lips on all four edges and then fold them over with your scoring tool or your bone folder, and then attach that to the inside of the front of the shadow box so it looks like it actually, like everything's kind of protected with a nice clear cover. You could do that as well. It's really up to you. I kept mine open so you can actually like poke your finger in there. So it's up to you how you want to do this. If you wanted, you can maybe have it so that it kind of opens and closes. That would be a cool idea as well. So moving on, I'm putting this rose together, and again, this card is really a lot of assembly work. So once you've got all your colors picked out and you've added your colors together, it's about assembling all of the flowers. And then my favorite part at the end is assembling the entire shadow box and seeing how it all comes together. And you'll notice that for the petals that are in front, the ones that are in the most forefront of these flowers on the rose and the lily, I actually used foam adhesive to attach those, and that also creates another level of dimension as well. If you wanted, because again, it's a shadow box, it's got a lot of space in there. So I'd say that these edges of the fancy frames are about 1 inch. So you've got a whole like space of 1 inch that you can kind of put stuff into this box frame. And yeah, you could probably just use foam adhesive for each layer if you wanted to make this flower stick out even more. So you don't have to worry about bulk because this is not like a flat card that would go through the mail. This is more like a project that you might want to create a box for and give to somebody in, by hand, not in the mail. So there's that to consider as well. Now, there is another portion of the rose. So just like the lily, there was like the large lily and then the smaller flower for the lily that's not quite open yet. Same thing for the rose. There's an open rose, and then there's also like a closed bud rose that's just starting to open, which is this portion. So I did that one as well. I didn't show you the ink blending for that, but it's essentially the same thing as everything else. I used the same mulberry blush ink, and I inked that one up. Now, for the June Meraki flowers, I love these flowers. They're so versatile, and you'll notice that within a bouquet, they'll always have like a really simple flower that just goes very well with everything, and this is one of them. So I cut out 6 of these. Well, actually, the die itself has 2 flowers on it, so I basically cut this out 3 times. And now I'm just going to layer these to create 3 flowers in total. And you'll notice that by shaping these, it gives it more of a lifelike look. The petals stick out a little more. And I find also using the stylus tool helps me put these together as well. I can kind of push down in the center and get those petals to sit up a little further. And then for our foliage, I'm going to go ahead and just do a little bit more ink blending. So on the pieces of brown cardstock, those die cut pieces, which I think they're from the Wreath Builder set, I'm just going to take some espresso ink and just darken the edges here again. This just gives it more of a two-tone realistic look. And then for the green leafy bits, I'm going to go ahead and add some evergreen ink to just again darken the edges and give it that realistic, shaded look. And the other portion of this is that there's one frond in here that if you look at the bouquet builder set, it actually is put together with little flowers. I cut those flowers out of white cardstock and I just kept them white because we've got a lot of deep colors in this bouquet, minus the peaches and the yellows. So I thought that the white would kind of break up all of the dark colors a little bit. And that's how I used that one frond, which I think was the first green one that I removed from the sticky mat here. So I just went ahead and darkened all of those. I did some shaping to them and I'll just keep those aside for now. Everything's kind of assembled in terms of the flowers. So let's go ahead and pick out our sentiments. So initially I thought that I could get 2 sentiments on this box. So I started off by stamping out 2 sentiments. I've got the love you and the your love gives me strength. So I'm stamping them out with some VersaFine Clear Nocturne ink. I find that this ink is really good, and especially doing like stamping this out by hand, I get a pretty good stamped image. Now I've gone ahead and I've cut those into banners along with some pieces of gold glitter cardstock to go along with it to kind of highlight those sentiments. And now that I've basically got everything needed to put this together, I can go ahead and start assembling. So I started off with the rose in the bottom left corner there. And I find the best way to attach these is to use some foam adhesive. So I'm just using some foam squares. If you don't have foam squares and you have foam tape, you can just cut pieces and use them. And I find that it's best not to cover the entire back of the die cut with adhesive. And by adding just one foam square in the middle, which is definitely enough to hold it in place, I still have space around the edges of that flower to tuck in leaf fronds and other flowers like you can see me doing here. So that just makes it much easier when you're trying to, you know, assemble a bouquet or like a group of flowers like how I'm doing here. Now you'll notice for the sunflower there, I actually cut off the edge, and that's another key point to kind of putting together a cohesive bouquet. If you just have all of the flowers just kind of squashed into the center and you have the whole flower showing, it doesn't look as cohesive as like a scene, right? Because it just looks like you just tried to fit everything in. But when you cut things in half or, you know, like 1/3 of it off, it kind of makes this scene look a little more realistic, and it all kind of flows together. And that's why I cut that portion of the sunflower. 1, it was to get it to fit in, and 2, to give it that realistic look. And you'll notice that it's the same idea if you're doing like a repetitive background. You want to have stamped images not only on your background, but you want to have some of them hanging off the edge, and then you cut those off and it has like a more organic look to it. Now I'm sorry my head gets in the middle here, but unfortunately it's kind of like about the belly of the beast for this type of project because it is a shadow box. Because of the frame at the bottom, it's kind of hard for me to fully see, so I kind of have to tuck my head in under the camera to get a full picture of what I'm doing. Sorry about that. But yeah, it's allowing me to make sure I get all these flowers in the right spot. And I'm just kind of, I didn't really have a plan for how I wanted everything to go. I'm just going with the flow. So the flowers that I really like, I'm making sure you can see all of them. I don't really want to cut them in half. You can tell I'm not a sunflower fan, so that's why I cut the sunflower. Poor sunflower. But the rest of it, I'm just trying to add pieces to kind of create a variation of color. I realized after I put this together, I have a lot of orange and yellow, so I'm using those mahogany June flowers to kind of break these up. And as I mentioned, I've added the white flowers to that leaf frond, and that's breaking that up as well. And I'll also add some of the white flowers separately, even without a leaf frond, to break up more of that color. Now, I realized that I'm not going to be able to put both of my sentiments in this. If I did, it would just cover too much of the flowers and then just look a bit too busy. So I decided to just use the your love gives me strength sentiment, and I'm just tucking it in the side of the frame just a little bit. And then I added some double-sided foam adhesive on the other end to just stick this down. And there that goes. Now, the rest of the leaf fronds, I found that it was useful to kind of use those green leaves to kind of break up all of that orange and peach and yellow. And also, I didn't add too much of those brown fronds because, as I said, there was a lot of darkness in the background anyways, so And I think it has enough of a rustic look to it, don't you think? So I think I cut a couple pieces off and stuck them in here and there wherever I could. And yeah, that's basically how this all came together. Now, I hope that you like this idea as well. And the other thing about this is, like with all flowers, you have different flowers for different seasons. And I have to say that if you've looked at the Crafty Meraki store, they have a whole host of different flowers. The June flowers and the Natalia sunflowers, they're like a one-piece die set where you could kind of do some, what is it called? Piecework, where you're basically adding different colors of cardstock for different pieces of that die. And then for other die sets like the Artisan Flora Lily and the Rose, you've got layering dies for those flowers. And then for the wreath builder, not the wreath builder, yeah, the wreath builder gives you a lot of good foliage along with the bouquet builder. So the builder sets are really good for foliage and extra little stems and floral bits as well. So those really come in handy for building up your bouquets. And keep in mind, you could have a Christmas bouquet for this, you could have a summer bouquet, spring bouquet. So these ideas are perfect year round by just changing up the colors of your inks or your cardstocks and by using a different mix of flowers. So as you can see here, I have moved on to adding my corners to the fancy frame. Now, I picked the one with the heart in it since the sentiment here was your love gives me strength. There's a little heart in these corners. I cut it out of some black glitter cardstock, and then I've got this this adhesive here. It's called artist tack paper, and when you put your intricate die cut into it, it picks up a sticky film and basically turns it into a sticker. I love this for things that are for die cuts that are really intricate. It really comes in handy. You can probably find that one on Amazon. Now for my bling, I'm using a mix. So I think I ended up using, I've got the Sparkle Magical Iris, and that I used in some of the flowers to create a bit of shine. I've got the Meraki, the gold gems. Those, again, the gold gems give it more of that rustic look. And then I've also got the opal gems, which are the center of those mahogany June flowers. So I used a mix of gems in order just to create a bit more interest and to suit my needs for the different flowers here. A lot of them I used in the centers, and then I used the magic iris gems just to in the background to create a little bit of sparkle and on some of the petals and stuff. And that's pretty much my shadow box card. So again, I want to reiterate, if you want to make this box card and tailor it to different occasions, do so. And definitely check out the Crafty Meraki store, because there are tons of different types of flowers, different types of die cut flowers, the way that they come together, the way that they look. So you can create a nice bouquet just from the Crafty Meraki store. Grab the fancy frame dies and you have a really nice set of products to create cards or shadow boxes or whatever it is you may year round. So I hope you guys have liked this idea and you'll definitely give it a try. Everything that I've used is linked in the description below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the Crafty Meraki channel. Hit the notification bell so you can be notified of future videos, and as a reminder, I tend to do my videos on Sundays, so I see you guys every Sundays with some new ideas that I hope you like. Have a great day, guys, and I'll see you next time.